Michael and Marilyn had a way of taking care, feeding, healing these rescued birds. That they lived, instead of 2, 3, 4 years, their natural lifespan, to 10, 11, 12 years. And quite a number of other birds came to live with Michael and Marilyn after that first one. You know, Michael was really able to express his feelings about these birds. I would just hear his love for them and how he worshiped them like they were God. You know, he called Murdy or Arya, oh my God, the goddess. But when one of them died, he was just grief-stricken, and he would just sob and sob about losing them, you know, and just how hard it was and how much he loved them. It was heartwarming to see and know that someone cared so much. You know, it was like this was family, as people say. The landlord, of course, was, as I said before, was not so happy about their very anti-speciesist. They didn't distinguish between the birds that they took care of or the kittens and cats and guinea pig and other animals that they cared for. They didn't distinguish between those and the farm animals that they didn't eat or steal milk or eggs from, and the little creatures that came to live in their home, the mice, the rats, and the water bugs, etc. So that's when the landlord got wind and they were evicted and had to live in Tent City. Michael's primary motivation in life was to end. He couldn't bear to see the suffering of anyone, especially innocent animals who really had no voice in our social systems, in our political, economic systems, and were so vulnerable to human confinement, exploitation, commodification, abuse, terror, torture, and killing. So Michael, like myself and most vegans, suffered from dystopia. This is similar to dystopia, an imagined state or society in which there is great suffering or injustice. The vegan psychologist Claire Mann coined this word to describe the anguish a vegan feels living in a non-vegan world. I would include not only anguish, fear, but also pain, anger, all the feelings that a vegan feels about living in a non-vegan world. And this involves the original awakening to see and experience and understand the full extent of the cruelty and horrors and the violence inflicted on our animal friends. 2, discovering the enormity of that violence, how the human race kills over 80 billion animals a year, millions by the hour. I think it's 6 million an hour, and hundreds of thousands by the second. That it goes on undetected by the vast majority of humans. That is, it's completely invisible. Unlike racism and sexism and disrespect for LGBTQ community and immigrants, etc., this is the one ism, speciesism, that is almost completely invisible to, I'd say, a vast majority of people in the world. This whole awakening of a whole system whereby friends, neighbors, people we talk to continue to collude with the system of invisible and hidden violence. And vegans who are not alert to other forms of struggle and injustice wonder, if this is hidden from me, if this is the amount of violence in the world, what else is my government, institutions, hospitals, medical establishment, science, etc., hiding from me? And why are perfectly sane, intelligent, rational, and seemingly kind family and friends continuing in these horrific practices, or these practices that are the result of horrific practices? All vegans, especially those fighting for hum-an-imal or animal liberation, go through this, and many eventually learn the value of self-care, getting enough sleep, taking care of our health, eating whole, organic, plant-based meals, exercise, fresh air, etc. and ways of thinking and spiritual practices, meditation, yoga, ways to calm ourselves that are helpful. Michael, he would say, if a dumb high school graduate like myself could comprehend this and change my ways, anyone should be able to do it. And so I would just remind him that a lot of people, aren't as attuned to animals, really are indoctrinated, just like we were, but want to conform to what's around them. And we've got to keep on educating and sharing this way of living in the world. I just want to insert here that Michael taught me so much more. With a dictionary always by his side, he taught me about words and language and pejoration and amelioration of language, distorting words like pig, the names people are called, names of animals that make the name of an animal be like this terrible thing. Some words used to clarify, but many used to distort. And he would point out the speciesist language of, for example, pig, bitch, coward, bully, sheeple, you rat, chicken, and many others. He taught me about this ingenious system that he devised, combining astrology, numerology, natural healing, spirituality, Buddhism, and a combination of East and West philosophies. He taught me about Buddhism, Taoism, Jain, the religions of nonviolence. He taught me about Leo Tolstoy and how he went to debate vegans in North America from Russia, and he lost the debate and was convinced that nonviolence was the way, and he became vegan, and he renounced his writings, War and Peace. And he was the one who Gandhi visited and was in turn convinced to live a nonviolent, peaceful way of living. Michael, suffering from dystopia. Michael also, one of his imperfections was his perfectionism. And he just could not accept that anyone could be anything less than plant-based, vegan, compassionate towards all beings. And so he kind of held a microscope on people. And he also had all this political awareness from listening to WBAI and the 9/11 inside story, the myth of 9/11, 9/11 truth, from Ralph Schoenman's show, Taking Aim, and the Palestinians and Native Americans, and he knew about all these struggles. So to vegans who were unaware of these other horrors of capitalism towards humans, he would preach to them about, no, you've got to be aware and alert to this other aspect of capitalism, or the measure of wealth by the head, the cap of animals. You have to be aware of all the ramifications of what that means. And so he would argue to the vegans about that, and to the people who were politically astute and aware, he would argue about the importance of an anti-speciesist, how anti-racist and anti-sexist that an essential an anti-speciesist stand was. And then to people who were already politically aware and politically active for years, for their whole life, like Ralph Schoenman, he would argue with him about Marx and Trotsky being a hunter, and the same with other political. And he would argue with people like Carol J. Adams, how could you support Bernie Sanders, who supports the dairy industry and is totally unaware and doesn't say anything about that, and who supports hunters and gun rights. He was really a perfectionist, and in a way, that perfect imperfection of his was sort of a way that caused him great grief and caused many people to just be fed up with him. I mean, at a certain point, he was using all capital letters on Facebook, like it's called screaming at people. And that turned a lot of people off. And so before he gradually changed his ways and really became much more finely attuned to working with people and where they were at, he really lost a lot of possible allies and some friends. I stuck with him through and through because I was really on the same page in a lot of ways, but just a little bit more subtle approach to people. And I had the support of sisters and friends who are struggling with their dystopia and how to deal with family members and friends who had not yet been enlightened. Michael did impact a lot of people, and he certainly impacted me. And I really grew up with his friendship and his camaraderie and collaborating with him. He was a great co-worker, and I'll never be the same. I do see Michael in heaven now, just with his thin fur and feathered friends, just rejoicing in their amazing creation, their amazingness, all their intelligence and wisdom and beauty and lovingness. And I see him really in a good place, with Michio, the peacock that he loved and that sadly died many months before. And I see him also with all the philosophers and the authors and the scientists and the playwrights and all the people he studied and the wise people of the world, the feminists, everybody who changed life. And maybe arguing with them a little bit, but also kind of looking down and saying, okay, we're on the right track. And I really hold him so dearly in my heart now and will forever. Hard to really comprehend that I can't just pick up the phone and say, Michael, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And look what I'm doing. And how do you think? And can you join me with this? It's very hard to grok that, to know that, but I will continue to honor him and his mission. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a little long, and I do invite you to, I have 2 to read, short little words from people who knew him. One would be Father Donatello Aiotto, who said, I am not able to attend via Facebook or Zoom, so would you kindly read these, my fond memories of Michael? I met Michael through Facebook. We talked many times on the phone. Michael was a real inspiration and a very intelligent man. We were both on the mission to reveal to the world that Jesus and his early followers were vegan. He referred to me 2 of the books that really helped me look into early Christianity. They were The Forgotten Beginnings of Creation and Christianity by Carl Anders Screever and The Vegetarianism of Jesus Christ by Charles P. Veslavic. I am thankful to God that I was able to meet and talk to Michael, the vegan deacon, who blessed and encouraged me to further my studies concerning Jesus and his early followers. Michael also spoke about his love for all of God's creation, his brothers and sisters. I enjoyed listening to the mystical experiences he had with his family of animals, with whom he and his wife Marilyn lived. They were unforgettable experiences. I will truly miss speaking to Michael and seeing his posts about the crucial importance of living a vegan Christian lifestyle. May Michael continue to inspire those who want to live the way God intended. May he also continue to pray for us so all may see the truth of how we are to love all creatures with kindness, gentleness, and mercy. Thank you, Michael. You will be dearly missed. Father Donatello Aiotto. And Dr. Richard Schwartz of the Jewish Vegetarian Society of North America, a Scottish poet, wrote, "To live in hearts left behind is not to die." In that sense, Michael will live in my heart, that of his beloved wife and companion Marilyn, and the many others whom Michael befriended and inspired. What I remember most about Michael was his dedication, his commitment to working for a better world. Michael would often call me with an idea for working to advance vegetarianism, animal rights, environmental sustainability, or another progressive cause. His approach was always thoughtful and thought-provoking. He was always appreciative of my efforts, but urging me to do more. I counted him as one who inspired me to always try harder. May his memory be a blessing, inspiring us to keep working for a more just, peaceful, humane, and environmentally sustainable world. May Marilyn and all who loved Michael be comforted with many fond memories. Thank you, Dr. Richard Schwartz, and thank you, Father Donatello Biocco. And thank you all for listening and being here. And thank you, Lisa, for opening the Zoom meeting to anyone who would like.
Yes, well, thank you, Nancy, for sharing your fond memories and the life history of Michael, so all of us can get to know the parts of him even better that we didn't know before. So I certainly learned some things about Michael from hearing what you had to say. It was very moving. And I'm wondering if anyone would like to share a thought or a memory. We did have, I think Tom was interested in possibly doing that before. So what you can do is there's a raise hands button, or you can let us know in the chat box that you would like to talk. The process is to make you a panelist if you'd like to share your webcam. So you share your video with us if you'd like, or you can just share with your voice. That's fine too. So it looks like we have a few people with their hands up. So I'm going to go ahead and call on first. Let's see if Tom wanted to mention anything. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Hi there.
I think it was well done. I think Nancy had a lot of nuances really well, nicely there. Some of the things I remember, he was an awful good sports person. He could throw a ball, baseball, like a real pro. We'd be walking, pick up a rock. We'd be walking through a park, and he would just pick it up and throw it, and it would take off like a full-fledged, amazing how strong, how capable he was. It wasn't muscle, it was skill. And musically, he was great. He really was rock music. He didn't get into classics until way later, but in terms of rock, he had listened to it all and he understood origins. So when he would listen to a song, he would know where that came from, the influences. And it was, which is one of the reasons he really jumped into the AI at the time, because they had a whole wealth of different music. But he was exceptional in music. I mean, it was like way beyond other people. He would confront people at the station, the AI, about that, and they would kind of really acknowledge that. And then back, I think the important is to remember, I remember, he was really a macrobiotic for a long time first. And part of that was the philosophy of yin yang and the balancing, how he made it work, in his relationship and his attitude and disposition. And it was a big thing. Like in the winter, you would find him just eating grains, heavy grains, and ignoring fruit, for instance. And then as the seasons change, he would change. And so I know the philosophy and the diet were, for a long time, the real focus. He really was living his belief and Marilyn together. And I think it was later on he opened it up more to the intensity of veganism. So, and, it was pointed out how he could be difficult sometimes. And, he had some hurdles to deal with, in terms of like his daughter sometimes. But, so does all fathers. And so those were high points. And he was, very empathetic. I mean, people had a wealth of different people that he knew. Back in the macro days, he grew to know all the people in the movement. There was a big group in New Jersey, I think, who were influencing the business side of macrobiotics, and he was right in on it. Not to be business-like, but to propagate the philosophy. Mm-hmm. I think that's about it.
Well, thank you, Tom, for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate it. And we're going to move on to the next person who wanted to share their thoughts, and I have their name here as Owner, I think. So I'll just invite you to talk. Hello. Hi there. Can you share your name with us?
Yeah, it's Gail Cobray, and I don't know why owner is there.
Okay. Sorry about that. Would you like to share your webcam? It's up to you.
No, thank you. I
Okay.
didn't know Michael, but I found this very interesting. So I just wanted to thank
Oh,
Nancy and thank you.
well,
Appreciate it.
thank you for joining. And it is really important to honor other activists' lives. So I'm glad that you joined in.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I'll invite Thomas to talk.
I'll do Thomas Wade Jackson.
Hi, Thomas.
Hey, oops, I got a little light on my hand. Hey, Nancy, thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful. It was such a blessing to learn more about Michael. I met Michael last year by the phone. He reached out to me. He had heard of the film, and he reached out to me because he knew Jesus was vegan, and he really wanted the world to know that. Unfortunately, when he reached out to me, it was right when we were releasing the film. Like, I was just so busy. I really only had time for a couple conversations in the last year. Like Nancy was saying, I would get on the phone with him and we would talk for 3-4 hours easy. And I would be like just enjoying it so much because he had such a passion and he knew so much and I learned so much and he could answer so many questions. And I want to say, I really feel like he's been visiting me since Friday. And today, my computer, during this whole webinar, my computer's been doing this strange thing where it'll go light and it'll go all the way dark and go all the way light. I'm like, what, Michael, are you messing with my computer? Like, it was just so odd. Like, it wouldn't even show up on my monitor. You know, when you hit your button, you see the light changing, but it wouldn't show up. It would just change. And I would go to hit it and it would already be all the way at the top. I'm like, how did that happen? But so we had lots of great conversations. And you know, when I started making a prayer for compassion, everybody I interviewed, I asked them about whether or not they thought Jesus was vegan. Because when I first started it, I thought it was important for me to prove Jesus was vegan. It was a very important thing. So by the time Michael had contacted me, it was like 3.5 years after starting it. And early on, like Frank Hoffman was one of the early interviews, and he believes Jesus was vegan. But when I asked him, he said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is if Jesus was here right now and you took him to a slaughterhouse or you showed him what was going on with the planet and all this, like, there's no way. So I quit trying to fight that. So I would get in these discussions with Michael and I would say, well, right now, I feel like my purpose is really to bring people to the heart. Because if you start talking about Jesus being vegan and you start quoting verses, you're going to get them in their head and they're going to argue and they're going to be in this defensive mode and they're not going to hear what you're saying. I said, I really want to make that movie, Michael, but you got to let me get through these other ones first, because I think these movies will make people ready to hear the message and ready to understand it. And also in the very end, I still think in the end, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Michael came like Friday on a vengeance, and I know he's not giving up. He's persistent. That's, I believe you said, Nancy. He's letting me know. Because one of the last conversations I had with him, I said, Michael, I said, you know, it's going to be a little bit before I can get to you, but right now, I feel your passion. I feel your purpose. I want you to get a camera, your phone, something. Just start recording stuff. Please record stuff for me so we'll have it when it's time to work. Like right now, while you're feeling the passion, get it out. So I don't know if he did that, but I heard in the interview, like Nancy, I know you've done some interviews with him. I've rewatched the interview with Vegan Spirituality. I feel like we can pull stuff from his interviews, do some other interviews of people who knew him, and we can make a film about Jesus being vegan. I wrote it, well, I think we co-wrote a song called Jesus Was a Vegan. My friend Michael told me so. So I'm hoping to get some footage of him talking and then into the song with some pictures and stuff of him and honor him in that way as well. He had a major purpose, and, you know, I only knew him a small time, but I could not get in the conversation with him without feeling his love and passion and his purpose, and I knew I was connected to it in some way, and I just was so to be close to him. When I heard he passed, man, my heart sank so deeply, because I knew, like, I felt like last year I could have found a way somehow to gotten up there, and now I don't have that chance. But I know he's still with us. I know he's been with me this weekend. Several times he's visited, and I've gotten so much synchronicity that as soon as I was thinking about the idea of like, oh yeah, you know, I can still explore that Michael's film with Michael, with what happened with Michael, because he did talk and it did reach out. I went on a bike ride and a friend emailed me about an idea. She just had a dream. And so I called her back and I told her what I just said. She said, oh my God, I believe that so deeply, that Jesus is vegan. And you know what I mean? It was just like another sign, like ding, 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 everywhere I was looking. And today when my monitor, which has never gone up and down like that, like, come on, man. So I like to think Michael's with us, and I'm going to honor Michael as much as I can. And I thank you, Nancy, for really carrying the torch. I learned so much today, you know, and I really, you know, we definitely need to be in communication once we can see each other again. I'd love to kind of find a way to get together and do a little interview and find a way to put something together for Michael. It may not be like a 2-hour thing. I was thinking, you know, 30, 45-minute piece could cover it and really hit it and bring it home. I'm just saying, yes, Michael, you got me. You won. I say yes. And I appreciate you, Michael. And I appreciate you all for being here to honor Michael. And thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. I just want to give a little introduction to you, which you gave hints about. Thomas Wade Jackson made this amazing film called A Prayer for Compassion, in which he, and sometimes his amazing, adorable daughter, went around the world to all these various religious leaders and people of many different faiths and interviewed them. And it's sweet, adorable, heartwarming, very educational. It's a beautiful film. And I did reach out. I thought, wow, it'd be great if Thomas could make a little film about Jesus being vegan, you know, go and interview Michael. And it happened, I'm sure, Thomas, that you were promoting your film, which had just really come out at about that time, and it needed, you know, like a baby needs the parent, it needed to be supported and taken through to the next stage. And I tried to explain that's probably why Thomas hasn't followed through yet. You know, that doesn't mean he won't. And so I'm really honored that you came and visited us here and shared that. It's a beautiful film. I recommend it to everyone, and it's an honor to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for your words of wisdom and also your inspiration. It sounds like you're going to continue some of Michael's passions.